Hey, yo, what's up, everyone? Welcome back to the channel. This is Smart TCG, and today I'm going to be going over my Brisbane Regional Championship win, also kind of going over the thought process and how I built this deck, and then also look to Miraidon in the post-rotation. So I was able to take down the most recent Regional Championship with the Prime Catcher Miraidon. A week before, I did compete in the Stockholm Regional Championships, and I actually didn't even make day 2. I ended up playing a different variant of the Miraidon with the Area 0 and also Secret Box and Pikachu. However, I ran into a couple problems with the deck. It didn't necessarily feel super consistent at some points. Also, since Isaiah Bradner was able to win that tournament with Gardevoir, I really wanted to go all in on doing well against a couple specific matchups. For example, the Gardevoir matchup and also the Dragapult matchup. Those were two decks that I really expected to show up at this regional, and I felt that the Prime Catcher variant had a better shot against those, and they did show up. There were quite a few Dragapult in the top 16 and top 32, and also Gardevoir did quite well as 3 of them made it into top cut. Henry did make it into asymmetrical, and then we saw Rahul and Alexander get 4th and 5th. So I really wanted to focus on making sure that I was able to beat those matchups. And to be honest, I actually hadn't played a whole lot of the Prime Catcher variant. It was something that I wasn't necessarily super comfortable with, but heading into the tournament, I started to play some games with it, and I kind of realized just how powerful the Prime Catcher was. I played Miraidon to a couple tournaments before this. I played it to Stockholm, as I said, and I also played it to EUIC as well. And this variant that I played was the Secret Box Area 0 version, and kind of as the meta game went on, I kind of realized that just having access to Prime Catcher to be able to amp over and over again a little bit more consistently against decks like Dragapult and also Gardevoir is really important, because if you miss taking a knockout with amp and get those 2 prizes, you can really kind of fall behind, because yes, you can get that first amp, but if they hit you with an unfair stamp or something and then you miss a gust effect, or if they trap something in the active and you don't have access to Prime Catcher, you just sometimes lose. So I felt like the Prime Catcher variant did about 5 to 10% better into each of those matchups, and I was able to see quite a bit of success with it. I took Azul GG's list that he played at the Vancouver Regional Championships, and I did make one change. I did cut the Canceling Clone, as I felt like it was, mainly just there for the Lost Box matchup, but I didn't expect to see a whole lot of Lost Box at the tournament, so I cut it for the Professor's Research, just kind of increasing the consistency. This card wasn't necessarily very good at the very beginning of the tournament, but towards the end came up in multiple situations and was quite helpful. So yeah, this list ended up feeling pretty good. No Area 0, just ended up playing the Prime Catcher. You just have to be a little bit more careful on what Pokemon you bench. But honestly, 5 bench Pokemon felt like enough in this deck. Overall, this list felt really, really good, and I had a lot of fun with it and was able to win the tournament. Now, heading into post-rotation, as I know most of you are getting ready for post-rotation, we don't have very much time left at the recording of this video, of this, pre-rotation format. I know, TCG Live has already changed as well to post-rotation, and for the upcoming Atlanta Regional Championships, post-rotation will be legal. So quite a few things will be changing. I will be doing a tier list as well, should be coming out in the next day or so, so make sure to check that out. We'll be releasing soon. So here is going to be the deck list that I have built currently. I think this deck is okay. Amp is still really, really good. It does lose some really important cards. Cards like things like the Rotom, Luminion as well. That's another one. Those are kind of the big ones. Rotom's the really, really big one. Losing Rotom is really, really important and unfortunate. So you do have to play 2 Squawkabilly now to kind of compensate for that. Also, Heavy Ball's gone too. That's another reason as to why 2 Squawk is really, really important, because if you prize the Squawkabilly, and since you don't have Rotom, your deck can kind of just fall apart. So because you don't have Heavy Ball anymore, so playing the double Squawkabilly makes a lot of sense. I got the Magnezone in here, just is a stage 2 thing that can actually attack for a decent amount of damage. Can definitely catch some people off guard with that Energy Crush 2/2, as well of the Magnemite Magneton, just for consistency. I'm a big fan of that Magnetic Charge too. Some people play the 60 HP ones. I personally am a fan of the 50 HP ones. Also, we do play the Heavy Baton as well, just because this is pretty much just an amp over and over deck. You need to be able to amp, pretty much repeatedly, just trying to go 2/2 as quickly as possible. I personally like this deck a little bit more than the Future Box deck, simply because I like that, kind of aggressive style, like, not having to, use something like the single prize like Miraidon to take a turn off to load up the Iron Hands. I also feel like this deck is a little bit more consistent than Future Box 2, so this is, kind of my preferred variant. And then, yeah, pretty much still a lot of the same cards that we played in previous formats. We got 4 Arven, 4 Boss, 1 Professor's Research. Still play that Prime Catcher. You really want to play Prime Catcher now as well, especially in this format, because something like Area Zero is just not really as good anymore, because cards, like Raikou as well, that was a card I didn't mention, not having access to the Raikou too, makes Area Zero significantly worse, because I think that, like, one of the nice things about the Area Zero was it allowed you to deal, lots of damage, with the Raikou V. But, now that, that card is also rotated, unfortunately, I feel like the Area Zero doesn't really have a whole lot of use in some situations. So, yeah, this is currently the list that I have as of right now. I think it has some potential, definitely a deck that I'm going to be, testing a little bit of, seeing if I can get this deck to work. But this is the list that I feel relatively comfortable with at the moment. Has an okay Dragapult matchup. You just kind of go amp, amp, amp over and over and over again. It is unfortunate that you don't have Raichu anymore, so your lines are a little bit more linear. Like, you can't, like, put them in a situation where you can amp for game or Raichu for game. That was a situation that oftentimes would come up with the deck, and unfortunately you can't do that anymore. So just, kind of a couple problems, here or there. But yeah, I still think that the deck has, some potential, and yeah, I wouldn't be surprised to see some success, but it's just not as consistent as it used to be. Kind of relies a little bit more on running hot off those generators. I would say the biggest card that we lost was Rotom. Rotom was really, really important for this deck. One of the things that, I learned as I played, more of this, I guess, conservative variant of the Dawn without, like, the Area Zero, was just kind of going draw, attach, bench Rotom, draw 3 was fine. Really, really just, trying to set up your board, with that Rotom, making sure that you have an explosive turn 2 a lot of the time was, really nice. But now, since you don't have something like the Rotom, you just kind of, like, want to go second, get really, really aggressive, try and run them over, with that amp you very much. Also, losing the double turbo energy and Seal Stone as well is quite unfortunate. So there are some pretty important cards that you do lose. This is also another reason as to why we do play the 2/2 Magneton, because there will be some games where you actually want to use this twice. So that's another thing to kind of think about too. There is kind of an argument also to go first, just to go, like, attach and then, like, use Squawk and then pass, and then, try and pop a Magneton. So, going first is also okay. But it kind of depends on what you're playing against. So yeah, this is the deck. This is, from, yeah, I think it's, not, I would say, the best deck anymore, or tier 1, but it has some potential. But anyways, I just, kind of wanted to make a short little video. I've been pretty busy recently, but do expect some post-rotation content coming out soon. As I said, I will be doing an Atlanta regional tier list. Also, a top 10 video should be coming out soon. Also, we do have the brand new cards on TCG Live, so there will be some gameplay to check out soon. I should be releasing that over the next few days. But anyways, thanks for all the support as always. I appreciate it. Glad to get that first regional win. It definitely felt pretty good. Thanks for all the messages and the kind words. Yeah, happy to take it down. I will be at the Atlanta Regional Championships too, so if you see me, make sure to come up and say hi. I will be around. I'm pretty tall, so, or I like to think I'm tall, I guess. So yeah, if you see me, make sure to come up and say hi. And yeah, I hope to see many of you there. I will also be attending the Monterey Regional Championships, which is the weekend after Atlanta. So yeah. Anyways, thanks for all the support as always. Just kind of wanted to go over this right now. The export of the deck list will be in the description. Thanks so much for all the support as always. This is Smart TCG. I'll speak with you guys again soon. Peace out.